Hello, Mr. Blaze.
Hello, Senator.
What can I do for you today, son?
Well, I would like to talk about legalization of hemp, sir.
Well, why would you want to legalize a drug like marijuana?
So, calling in marijuana is not the proper name. It is actually supposed to be called hemp or cannabis. I'm going to tell you a little story about marijuana, and I want you to keep your ears open and listen to all these facts about the non-drug cannabis.
Tell you story, little buddy.
Well, the story of cannabis starts at around 7,000 BC was the earliest related use of marijuana or cannabis. Now we will jump forward into time and talk a little bit about how it was turned evil. America's first marijuana law was enacted at Jamestown Colony, Virginia in 1619. It was a law ordering all farmers to grow Indian hemp seed. There were several other must-grow laws over the next 200 years. You could be jailed for not growing hemp during times of shortage in Virginia between 1763 and 1767. And during most of that time, hemp was legal tender. You could even pay your taxes with hemp. Try that today. Hemp was such a critical crop for a number of purposes, including essential war requirements, rope, etc., that the government went out of its way to encourage growth. The United States Census of 1850 counted 8,327 hemp plantations, minimum 2,000-acre farm. Growing cannabis, hemp for cloth, canvas, and even the cordage used for baling cotton.
Loud by the sound of it, you really know your stuff. How many other stoners know this information?
Well, Mr. Senator, almost every single person that smoke this recreational drug that's healthier than alcohol or tobacco knows about the history and why it's illegal. But since you all don't seem to get the point, let me explain myself more. In the early 1900s, the western states developed significant tensions regarding the influx of Mexican Americans. The revolution in Mexico in 1910 spilled over the border, with General Pershing's army clashing with bandit Pancho Villa. Later in that decade, bad feelings developed between the small farmer and the large farms that used cheaper Mexican labor. Then, the Depression came and increased tensions, as jobs and welfare resources became scarce. One of the differences, seized upon during this time, was the fact that many Mexicans smoke marijuana, and had brought the plant with them, and it was through this that California apparently passed the first state marijuana law, outlawing preparations of hemp, or loco weed. However, one of the first state laws outlawing marijuana may have been influenced not just by Mexicans using the drug, but, oddly enough, because of Mormons using it. Mormons who traveled to Mexico in 1910 came back to Salt Lake City with marijuana. The church's reaction to this may have contributed to the state's marijuana law. Other states quickly followed suit with marijuana prohibition laws, including Wyoming, 1915, Texas, 1919, Iowa, 1923, Nevada, 1923, Oregon, 1923, Washington, 1923, Arkansas, 1923, and Nebraska, 1927. These laws tended to be specifically targeted against the Mexican-American population. When Montana outlawed marijuana in 1927, but Montana Standard reported a legislator's comment: when some Beatfield peon takes a few traces of this stuff, he thinks he has just been elected president of Mexico, so he starts out to execute all his political enemies. In Texas, a senator said on the floor of the Senate, all Mexicans are crazy, and this stuff, marijuana, is what makes them crazy. The current laws against the cultivation of hemp can be attributed to three men: Henry J. Anslinger, Lamont DuPont, and William Randolph Hearst, who made growing hemp illegal. Anslinger was the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. DuPont and Hearst were the owners of the largest chemical company and newspaper, respectively. Hearst began printing outlandish stories with headlines such as "Marijuana goads user to bloodlust" and "Hotel clerk identifies marijuana smoker as gunman." He also took advantage of the country's prejudice against blacks and immigrants by printing that marijuana-crazed Negroes were raping white women, and by painting pictures of lazy pot-smoking Mexicans. DuPont's banker Andrew Mellon, who happened to be Secretary of the Treasury under Herbert Hoover, also had a nephew-in-law, Henry Anslinger, who had the marijuana tax law of 1937 passed, allowing munitions maker DuPont to supply synthetic fibers for the domestic economy without competition. These men succeeded in a conspiracy which ultimately added to the destruction of the environment by them producing plastic and paper, where hemp could have been more beneficial. In 1991, DuPont was still the largest producer of man-made fibers, while no citizen has legally harvested a single acre of textile-grade hemp in over 50 years. The standard fiber of world history, America's traditional crop, hemp, could provide our textiles, paper, and be the premier source for cellulose. The war industries DuPont, Allied Chemical, Monsanto, and others are protected from competition by the marijuana laws, and they make war on the natural cycle and the common farmer. Remember, this hemp has been around far longer than synthetic substances and has endured much controversy. It is also 100 natural and is much better for our environment. You cannot get high off of hemp. It is not marijuana. But it still has many other uses, and many that have yet to be discovered. Can you imagine, if they put as much time and research into hemp as they have into plastic, what uses they would have for it now? Some facts about hemp. Hemp is 8 times stronger than cotton, and requires no pesticides. To grow. Hemp paper lasts 4 to 5 times longer than paper made from trees, is easier and causes virtually no pollution to grow or to make into paper. Hemp fiber board is far stronger than similar wood products, and can replace almost every item used in building a house, except electrical wiring and glass windows.